Hello and welcome to Azariah's Studio. My name is Sarah. I am the artist and designer behind Azariah's Studio. I'm going to talk to you about bead placements. So you'll need your swatch. Follow these instructions if you want to follow along with me. In addition to that, you'll need a couple of beads. I've got some 6/0 beads here. First, I'm going to talk about tools. So one tool is a crochet hook. This one's a very tiny crochet hook. There's a link in the description to a project with some pictures of an accident that I had with one of these crochet hooks. So this one's full size, tiny crochet hook. This one is just a little tiny, like about half size, and its head might be a little bit bigger, and it's on this charm here that's like a really giant crab claw clasp. I'll put the link to both of these in the description as well. And then this one, you see that? Hopefully that's showing. Is called the Easy Beader, Beader, and it is from Crafty Flutterby. I'll put the link to that as well. This one is my favorite. I'm going to show you how to use this one. Other things you could use include regular steel crochet hooks, like with the larger ones, the regular steel ones that you can pick up at any of the bigger box stores that you probably have laying around from Grandma's stash. And then another one that people like to use, I don't as much, is they're floss guides, and they're for braces, or I think bridges as well. I'm not really sure what they're for, as I've never had either of those, but they're blue, and they're a loop, and then they have the straight line on the bottom, and you can bend them and get, similar to the way this is going to work, and get beads on, and because of the loop on the back, it's harder for the beads to fall off. I just don't like using those as much. This will hold a whole bunch of beads. Let's see, the 6/0s, probably close to 40 in one shot. With the bend in the wire, they don't go anywhere. They don't fall off. I've heard of somebody having this full of beads, dropped it on the airplane, got it back, still had all of its beads on it. So, unless you have pre-strung beads onto your yarn, you will put your beads onto your tool. We are not going to be talking about how to do pre-strung. This is how to place a bead when knitting or purling. All right, I have my beads on my wire. Got my beads onto my tool. I am now going to knit the first 4 stitches. And this next stitch is a beaded stitch. So the question becomes, do I bead first, or do I knit or purl first? For this stitch, we're going to bead first. So I pick up my bead tool. It's a crochet hook. You just push it through the loop. This one I close and make like the eye of a needle and push through the stitch so that it pops open. I capture the stitch in the bend, either of the crochet hook or of this wire. Pull the stitch off the needle. and then slide a bead down either the neck of the crochet hook or onto both pieces of the wire, and then down onto the yarn. Replace the stitch onto the needle so that it can be worked. Now you either purl or knit, whichever the pattern tells you to do. Check your orientation, make sure it's not twisted, and then work your stitch. Knit 3. Right, another bead stitch. I'm going to knit this one first, and then I'm going to bead the stitch. So this time we're working on the stitch from the other needle. Same steps though. Into the stitch, capture the stitch in the crook, slide the bead down, off of the tool, onto the stitch, stitch back onto the needle, tool out. Make sure your orientation is good. The stitch is stretched. I think I dropped something at some point. Anyway, make sure your orientation is good, and make sure that the stitch length is similar to that of those sitting around it. Don't let it be too long and don't let it be too short. Finish knitting the row. Then we're going to turn the work. Knit 2. Purl across to the last 2 stitches. Just treat the beaded stitches as if they're normal stitches. If you get to it and find its orientation is off, go ahead and fix it. Knit the last 2 stitches. Okay, they were put on in the same row of work. In this case, knitting. Like I said, you can purl as well. But they were put on in the same row of work. However, they're not sitting in the same row of work. It's one of the differences between knit and then bead, or bead and then knit. Hopefully the designer has been very clear how to work the stitch. The biggest reason that I like knit and then bead is not only me as a designer can I predict better where that bead is going to go, and it's going to be exactly where I need it to and not on the row below, but the tension of the stitches. So this stitch here is pulling on its neighbors because it had already been knit and was not any taller than the stitches next to it. So in order to get the bead on and then be able to knit into it, it had to borrow from its neighbors. This one did not have to borrow anything because the stitch was knit first and then the bead placed on, the stitch placed back on the stitch, and then adjusted to be the correct size even with the bead on it. So those are 2 bead placement options. And those are multiple bead placement tools. And if you have any questions about bead placement, feel free to message me or drop something in the comments. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Happy making!